In this part, we will talk about the first noble truth called Dukkha Sathya, which is the truth about suffering. At the end of the previous episode, I mentioned that true suffering, or Dukkha Sathya, is something only a Buddhist person on the path to enlightenment truly understands. Sometimes even Buddhist monks are not able to grasp it. Why is that? So, what suffering are we talking about? What is the difference? Understanding preventable and unpreventable suffering. Unpreventable suffering, vipaka dukkha. Resultant suffering that is too late to stop, caused by past attachments. This includes physical pain, illness, aging, and death, natural consequences of having a physical body. Preventable suffering, Dukkha Sathya. Future suffering that can be avoided if we act now. This suffering arises from attachments, expectations, and cravings that continue the cycle of samsara. Why do we suffer physically? Because we have a body which exists due to past desires, trishna, and attachments, upadana. Can we change that now? No. It's like the saying, you made your bed, now you must lie in it. The focus of Buddha's teachings, preventable suffering. The Lord Buddha's teachings focus on preventable suffering, Dukkha Sathya. It's about ending future suffering by cutting desires at the root, stopping endless expectations, cravings, trishna, and preventing attachments, upadana, thereby breaking free from samsara. This is the suffering we refer to in Buddhism. That is why it is said, dukkha, dukkhamave, dukkha sathya nove. Unpreventable suffering is indeed suffering, but it is not the preventable suffering mentioned in the Four Noble Truths as Dukkha Sathya. What causes suffering? Suffering arises from endless expectations, desires, wishes, or cravings, trishna, and not recognizing the fundamental truth of uncontrollability, Anichcha, which means things or people do not stay or behave as you desire or expect them to. Reflection exercise. True or false? You expect your children to behave as you like. When they don't, their Anichcha nature causes you suffering. True or false? You expect your health, wealth, relationships, and possessions to remain as you wish. When they change, it causes suffering due to their Anichcha nature. True or false? You expect your car to stay as you like, running well and not broken. When it is not happening, it makes you unhappy and suffering. True or false? You can apply this to anything in the world, and the answer will always be true. Key insight: uncontrollability, Anichcha, leads to suffering, dukkha. To find relief, we must practice relinquishment, anatta, realizing it is fruitless to hold on to expectations and cravings. The three lakshanas, universal characteristics. Anichcha, uncontrollability, the ever-changing nature of all things. Dukkha, this uncontrollability leads to suffering. Anatta, freedom comes from letting go of attachments, desires, and expectations. Buddhas appear in the world to explain these concepts. That is why it is said, Atakara tini pada sambuddhena sudesita. Nahi silavatan hetu upajanti tathagata. The Tathagatas do not come to give rules about behavior, but to teach three truths: Anichcha, Dukkha, Anatta. How to break free from suffering. Lord Buddha defined suffering as follows: Jatipi dukkha, jarapi dukkha, maranampi dukkha, soka parideva dukkha. domanassa upayasa dukkha, piyehi vipayogo dukkha, apiyehi sampayogo dukkha, yampicham nalabhati tampi dukkha, sankhitana panchupadana kandha dukkha. Translation: birth, aging, death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, despair, separation from the loved, association with the unpleasant, not getting what one desires. All these are suffering. In short, clinging to the 5 aggregates is suffering. That means you cannot control your birth, jati. This Anichcha nature leads to suffering. You cannot control your aging, jara. This Anichcha nature leads to suffering. You cannot control your death, marana. This Anichcha nature leads to suffering. You cannot control the appearance of the moments of sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. This Anichcha nature leads to suffering. You cannot control the appearance of enemies or unpleasant ones. This Anichcha nature leads to suffering. Not getting what one desires is suffering. In short, the 5 aggregates affected by clinging are suffering. The root insight, suffering, arises from not understanding the nature of Anichcha, uncontrollability. We suffer because we expect things to remain constant in an ever-changing world. When we let go of these attachments, anatta, we free ourselves from suffering. Final reflection, Anichcha shows us that nothing is within our control. Dukkha is the suffering that arises from resisting this truth. Anatta is the wisdom of letting go, relinquishing, and finding peace. The path to freedom lies not in controlling the world, but in understanding its nature and relinquishing attachment. How to relinquish attachment and be free from suffering? What is the practical method for a normal young person, like my son in his early 30s, can practice? We will discuss it in the next episode. Please like and subscribe so you will be notified. May all beings be free of the sufferings of samsara.